I feel like the most notable thing about this class is the fact that it has access to Smash, which actually is pretty nice, making it the only current Agnes-based class able to use Smash, but I think much of everything else about the class does end up feeling a little bit underwhelming, just kind of being another face tank type class that doesn't feel like it separates itself much from the other two face tank classes. I guess it can be difficult to make too many unique tank playstyles though when you're just trying to soak up damage, and regardless, today's guide is going to be on the Lost Vanguard class, the final tank class in the game, and an abuser of Smash. In this video, I'd like to discuss the strengths and weaknesses of the class and showcase how to use it most effectively. As always, if you enjoy these guides, please be sure to subscribe to the channel because it really does help me out so much. Let's get into it. So somehow Uni is the inheritor of two of the non-default tank classes in the game. I don't really understand since there's only three of them total and she's more designed to be a healer. But regardless, Uni is the inheritor of Lost Vanguard, and as such, I'll be using the class on Uni. Obviously, Lons is probably going to be a better tank overall and also offer a higher base attack stat, making him likely the best option for a class like this. But you can have plenty of success running this class on anyone, especially because Smash is just strong enough to make it work on pretty much anyone anyway. The arts of this class include Shockwave. This has a 310% power multiplier on a pretty short recharge gauge of 4, and will knock back enemies that are currently performing arts, basically interrupting the art they are currently using if they are not immune to knockback or have really high resistance. This works decently well against a lot of enemies, although most unique monsters are probably going to have pretty high resistance, making this not the most effective ability. But regardless, it can be nice, and it's also one of your only two direct damage-based arts, so you probably want to run it just to make sure you can keep aggro on the tank-based class. And it's not a terrible art overall. It does have a decent power multiplier and a pretty short cooldown, so you'll probably get some benefit out of this. Mighty Beat is essentially the main art of your entire kit. It is your smash art, and it also boosts aggro generated when using the art by 100%, and has a really short recharge gauge of 3, meaning you can use it really often, even when you're not just trying to smash, because you'll be able to just gain some extra aggro every time you use it, since it has a short cooldown. You're going to want to run some support with other characters that can offer good reliable combo access, like an Ogre with Break Brutes using the Smith Break art, so you can take advantage of the smash more often, because this class will have a much harder time keeping aggro if it can't take advantage of the really strong and powerful smash damage. You should pretty much be running this art in all situations, because there's basically no reason to use this tank class over a different tank class if you're not taking advantage of this art. Shield Wall is your next art. This is essentially a guard art that grants the Ether Anchor buff and will allow you to restore health every time you use a guard art periodically, 4% of your health. It has a recharge gauge of 5, which is pretty low, but it does not do any damage directly by itself. Ether Anchor can be a pretty nice buff. This will allow you to nullify one reaction entirely, so if an enemy were to try to break you, topple, launch, or smash you, or knock back or blow down against you, you would immediately nullify that one time. And you can reapply it as soon as it goes away to allow yourself to basically have pretty much complete invincibility against most kind of reactions pretty much the entire fight. So it can definitely be a pretty good art to run, but it will not be doing any direct damage, so it's kind of situational, and not as supportive to the team. It's more of a self-tanking ability than anything. A more team-supportive tank option you could consider running is Electro Field. This has a cooldown recharge gauge of 7 and is a set AoE field around the user that grants the Armor Veil buff. Armor Veil is basically a shield or a barrier. This will absorb a fixed amount of damage for everyone that is inside the circle, allowing yourself a little bit of extra HP on basically everyone. Additionally, if an enemy does not break the barrier entirely, you also won't be affected by any kind of reactions or anything like that, so that is actually a pretty nice benefit of this art as well. Taut Pulse is your last art. This is a stance-based art that will deal continuous damage to enemies in a fixed radius and will draw more aggro. Now, the continuous damage is like once or twice every second or so, but it is absolutely laughably pitiful, like triple-digit pitiful. It won't even reach 1,000 damage. It was like 500 when I tested it a little bit, so it's pretty much going to be absolutely nothing. It does say it draws more aggro. I do not know the actual effectiveness of this, but regardless, I would say this is probably the worst art you have on the kit, and pretty much never going to be worth running over any of the other 4 arts in pretty much any situation, just because of how laughably bad the damage is overall. The normal power multiplier of this kit is called Thundersteel. This will boost damage to machines by 150%. It has a pretty nice power multiplier of 700%, and also can inflict the Bind debuff if you are lucky, but as we all know, that is not going to be the most reliable thing in the world. It's an okay talent art, but I feel like it doesn't have that much synergy with a tank-based class like this, so I like just running Deflector Field that you can get from the Guardian Commander class, which will allow you to have a chance to awaken yourself every time you absorb an attack while this art is active. This is another guard-based art, so while it is active, you basically will absorb all damage and basically not have to worry about pretty much anything. You basically get guaranteed block rate, and you will get the Awakening buff if you do block an attack while it is active. So Awakening, as you may have heard in previous videos, increases the damage of all your arts and also increases the recharge speed of them a little bit. There are not too many ways to get this buff in the in-game because it's one of the strongest buffs you have available to you, so I definitely recommend running this if you can take advantage of it. For Master Arts, I am currently running Shield Bash and Soaring Tempest, which are more here for the reactions Topple and Launch, so I can have access to Topple, Launch, and Smash all on the same kit, and only need to rely on other characters to break for me, although I give them some combo access as well, just to make it easier to smash consistently since the smash is on a really short cooldown. But regardless with this, I'm able to Topple and Launch by myself, which basically gives you a lot of ability to take advantage of the strengths of this kit. You do not want to link these to the Smash art because the normal art will come out before the Master art, so you will not be able to take much advantage of them in a fusion if you do this, so you want to make sure they're on separate parts of the kit. As far as the art I have linked to Mighty Beat, that is going to be Demolition. This is a really powerful power multiplier of 440% that has a 50% chance to ignore defense. Now, the total damage of Smash is based on the total damage of the art dealt, including any fusion art damage, and Demolition is likely going to give you the most powerful damage that you can possibly get. While Demolition is normally an ether attack, when it is fused to Mighty Beat, it'll take the properties of the weapon that is currently being used, so it'll become a physical attack when paired up with Mighty Beat, and since it has a 50% chance to ignore defense, this makes it particularly useful to get as much damage as possible out of Smash. Hidden Thorn is probably another consideration you could consider running. It has a 440% multiplier as well, and also can apply a bleed effect, but it will not ignore defense. That is the major difference there. You can also consider running Cross Impact to give yourself power charge for your own smashes, which can definitely be a pretty nice benefit to have as well, though you can also rely on other characters to give you power charge and not have to worry about it yourself as much. And there are other ways to get power charge as well, and if you want to have more combo access, I would recommend running this. But you could very easily replace Shield Bash with Cross Impact and have plenty of success applying your own power charges. The normal skills of this class include Come and Get Me, which when blocking deals 200% of attack damage to an enemy, drawing aggro. This is okay, but only going to be like 2,000 damage at most. But it is an okay skill when the class has basically a perfect block rate when you're running the setup I am running, so in that sense, it can be pretty nice. Now that's Tactics increases your TP by 10 at the start of a chain attack. I don't really see much use in this skill, but it can be certainly useful in some situations depending on what your setup is. But I personally don't care much about this skill, but it is there, and it does do something at least. Never Again will grant a 20% chance to absorb attacks dealt to allies within range. So if you're close to your allies and they're getting hit by AoE attacks or you don't have aggro for some reason, you have a chance to absorb that attack yourself, which can be pretty nice if you do not have aggro to just give yourself a chance to take the damage anyway and save some of your squishier allies. Stay right there. When taking damage, you have a 20% chance to inflict knockback on Assailant. This can be pretty nice, but as most enemies have pretty high knockback resistance, especially high level and large unique monsters, you're probably not going to see the most benefit out of this. All in all, the class skills for this class aren't the most impactful. I think it has some of the weaker class skills in the entire game, unfortunately. But you can give it some pretty good master skills to make it a pretty effective tank class. Most notably, Mind for Guarding will increase damage reduction rate when blocking by 20 percentage points, giving yourself essentially 70% damage reduction every time you block. And with my current setup, I have 100% block rate, meaning every single attack I take that is not going to penetrate guard rate is always going to be blocked, and there are not many attacks in the game that will penetrate guard rate on enemies. Maniac will boost my damage dealt to higher level enemies by 50%. I want to increase my own damage as much as I possibly can as well. There isn't a really high critical hit rate for the class. 20% is okay, but not going to be the most impactful ever, so I don't really care that much about critical damage with this class, and I want to take advantage of an increase to damage that'll work basically at all times. So if I'm fighting higher level enemies, this is always going to be a good option. Ultimate Qigong will ignore 50% of enemies' physical defense when landing a hit. So basically, this class is pretty much physical attack based. So every time I use physical attacks, I'm going to get another at least 50% more damage, possibly even more than that depending on the defense set of the enemy, and it's always going to be one of the most useful and beneficial skills for a physical attacker to run because it acts as an independent multiplier to all of your additive damage and all of your other sources of damage. My gem setup includes Empowered Combo. This will boost damage dealt by 75%. This is always going to be really nice to increase your damage 75% every time you cancel into an attack, which is a pretty significant increase and will increase your smash damage even further, which is always going to be really, really nice. Steel Protection increases block rate by 30 percentage points, pretty much an essential for this class to hit that 100% block rate, which is an insane total to have because every attack is going to just be blocked 100% of the time, and that is always going to be great, especially when you have abilities to reduce damage when you block attacks even further. It makes you not have to worry about your max HP nearly as much because you'll basically be able to mitigate any attack to anything under 8,000 unless you get doomed. Steel Cleaver increases attack by 70. I am running this over critical damage just because the critical damage isn't really that high. You could consider running something like Brimming Spirit to boost your aggro generation when using art, but I like doing as much damage as possible, and I think just increasing attack by 70 is going to be pretty decent. This is like a 5 to 6% increase in total attack at this level, something like this. On average, the critical damage gem would probably give you more, but since I'm relying on smashing and want to make sure I can get pretty consistent smash damage out, I want to make sure I'm hitting as much as possible on that, and you're not likely to get a critical hit that often when you only have 20% critical hit rate. But if you want to go for as much damage as possible, Analyzed Weakness can definitely be a really good choice. For accessories, I am notably running the Martis Rings. This is another boost that makes you able to hit 100% block rate, so I definitely recommend running this along with the gem that grants you the 30 percentage points of block rate to make sure you hit that 100% value, to make sure you're always going to have a ton of damage mitigation and function very effectively as a tank. Hermit Mask boosts damage dealt to terrestrial life by 100%. This setup does not currently have a lot of additive damage, only Maniac and this, so you can get an effective 150% increase to all of your damage by running this if you're fighting terrestrial life, and you can easily replace this accessory with something else if you're fighting a different type of enemy. So I definitely recommend running this because it's going to give you the largest possible increase to your damage over any other accessory. And finally, I'm just running a ceramic belt to boost my attack stat by 32%. This is a 32% universal increase to basically all of your damage since it affects your attack stat. So I definitely recommend running it simply because it's always going to be a great option to boost your attack. So Turning Rings is obviously going to be stronger, but if you have an attacker, it's probably going to be better spent on them. So I do not recommend running it on your tank in that case. But if you have multiple because you've done New Game Plus and just really feel like stacking up multiple rings, then that is always going to be a pretty good option. I think I spent longer than usual talking about setup this time, so let's go ahead and get into how to use this class practically. So what better way to show off a tank class than fighting the hardest super boss on hard mode? So I actually meant to do this at level 200, although it's probably better that I did it at this level because otherwise my dexterity probably would have been trash because I don't have any dexterity on my current setup, so I probably would have missed a bunch of attacks. Although when you smash, you don't actually miss that many attacks, and this actually makes the fight go a lot faster, even though most of it would be the exact same since I'd be mitigating pretty much all damage anyway by using Deflector Field to guard the only Doom attack it has, Ultra Play Bite, and then being able to basically take no damage with the damage mitigation, which I had already tested on level 200 as well, so that does work. Regardless, though, basic strategies, it's just going to be kind of saving Mighty Beat. I'll be using it some to keep aggro, but mostly saving it for when I can see breaks or immediately after breaks, since I know there might not be one coming for a little bit of time. And I'm going to, later in the fight, once I'm secure in aggro, save Shield Bash and Soaring Tempest to make sure that I can use Topple and launch myself. Since there's a daze there, since it wasn't a launch or smash, I just go ahead and use my arts there, since I'm going to be waiting a little bit for the next break anyway. So we get another Topple. Since I currently have Smash Up, I just go ahead and use it. It's not going to do that much damage without Demolition fused to it. It only did like 180,000 there, so not the most damage, but still an okay amount. As you can see, I'm trying to focus on getting Awakening as much as I can. Sometimes it doesn't work if he misses attacks. He actually has to hit you in order for you to get Awakening, which is kind of lame. But, oh well, sometimes works like that. For some reason, I like getting dazes every time I'm trying to go for big combos, but, you know, happens sometimes. I should probably be setting the combo to something else, but it doesn't really affect me that much if it's not a smash, since I'm not getting the most damage out of that anyway. It's just to end the fight faster more than anything. So now that the Topple's off, I can do launch into smash myself. Get about 600,000 damage on the smash, which is pretty good on a tank class that isn't really built around doing as much damage as possible. And it's pretty nice for helping secure aggro. I actually do use Deflector Field to try to block that Ultra Play Bite so I can get Awakening, although he just misses the attack. But I do end up getting Awakening anyway, which means that all my current damage will be increased some. So now it would be really nice if I could get a smash, because I can get even more damage out of it. I go ahead and go for the Shockwave here, because I was just going to try to get some extra aggro on the Transient Bond. On the smash, I'm able to get a decent multiplier as well, but I think my Awakening had expired, so I wasn't able to get as much as I would have liked out of that. Deflector Field does not work if he misses his attack, sadly, so I don't get the Awakening because he missed the attacks there, but we're over halfway done with his health already, which is pretty nice. And as you can probably see, we're kind of moving through his health bar without too many issues. If there is one weakness to this class, is like I said, the base damage of the class unfortunately really isn't that high. Otherwise, I could be doing a lot of additional damage. Something I do wonder is, since the Mighty Beat comes out before Demolition, is if it's not actually taking the damage of Demolition into account on my smash damage. I'm not actually sure exactly how that works, since most of the time it'll take all damage of Fusion Art into account, but normally the Smash art is the secondary art and not the primary art. So I don't know if that might be different here, since Smash is the primary art on this kit. Regardless, though, I'm still getting a decent chunk of damage as long as I smash towards the beginning of the launch. The total damage of Smash is based on the length of launch remaining, as well as other factors, so if you get a Smash early on in a launch, you will actually get more damage. So as you can see right there, there was not that much duration on launch remaining, so I don't even get 100,000 damage there, and I wasn't combining it with Demolition anyway. And there I only get 68, because that one was also very low, but now I have my own topple and launch available to try to get more duration out of it. And I do get a decent extra amount of damage there, 361,000. So despite all these smashes, all this aggro, I'm trying to keep... I actually do not have aggro right now. My Seraph Noah has taken it because, you know, that class just does stupid amounts of damage. Fortunately, we're kind of combo locking him anyway, so it doesn't end up mattering too much. And he goes down pretty fast. And I did contribute somewhat, and I did have aggro for most of the fight at least, so that wasn't the worst thing in the world. Now, I do want to show off a quick normal mode setup in a chain attack, just to kind of show off smash damage in a chain attack. I know you guys have seen that plenty of times, but I want to showcase the potential of the Guardian, or Lost Vanguard here, using smash, which isn't going to be the absolute highest in the world, but since it has a smash art before you can reasonably get smash on any other kit, outside of Talon Arts, which can't be used in chain attacks, you'll be able to take advantage of its smash abilities earlier on, which can be pretty useful since smash is really, really powerful, especially if you can get both topple and launch and a chain attack to get the maximum duration, allowing yourself to have the most powerful smashes possible. After lowering your physical defense and getting power charge in everyone, then you'll have a pretty powerful smash. I have a 726% damage multiplier here, which means I can get a pretty decent chunk of extra damage here. Not as much as Noah doing funny Seraph things, though, but I'll be able to apply attack up and power charge to everyone with Mio here with the Signifer buffs, and then I'm going to go ahead and smash, which does a decent chunk of damage. The smash itself does almost 5 million, which isn't too bad for a defender class not super set up for damage right now and without awakening. And the actual damage afterwards is okay on the combo attack. That was also probably a little bit over 500,000. So not the worst thing in the world. And the last round of the chain attack is obviously going to easily kill because of, you know, it's just really easy at that point. So I don't really see the need to show off the rest of this fight. And I think that's probably going to cover it for the Lost Vanguard guide. It's a class very heavily based around Smash. That's its one unique defining trait compared to other tank classes, I would say, that make it stand out. But it does have some other nice qualities, like being able to hit 100% block rate, being pretty tanky overall, and it's an okay class, I think. I still think it's one of the weaker classes in the game, just because there's a lot of really strong classes, and it doesn't really stand out that much. But there are some positive qualities, and the good thing about this game is that you can usually make most any class work. There are a couple things that I definitely think do need buffs in this game, but for the most part, this class works just fine like all the other classes we've discussed so far. There are only 2 classes remaining, and those are the post-game exclusive classes, and I will be covering those in the next 2 video guides, so please look forward to those. I know some of you have been waiting on those for a while, so I'll finally be doing those very, very soon. But as far as the base 23 classes, that's it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed these guides, and if you learned something from this, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment down below. Please look forward to the last few guides I have planned, currently at least, on the remaining classes, a couple other videos I have planned on the series that may not be directly guides, and anything else that I choose to make. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, thank you all so much for the support, and have a wonderful and blessed day, and hopefully I'll see you soon.